We have pyranol oil in transformers. I mean, and we should have been dead, I don't know, Bill, what, 20 years ago or something with all... Yeah, well, according to all the experts, we're all ghosts here, you know. We've all the radiation and radio waves and everything else. I don't know. I'm afraid I mean, I don't stand in front of X-ray tools, although today we will achieve that. We will be told when the video is getting close to when we need to take a break for a few minutes. Okay. Yes, we have the Rudolf Pressler catalog here, which is this is disgusting. You open this up, and for you know, 2 marks you can have a 2 Kreuzer tubes, you know, 4 Geissler tubes, and they'll throw in a Delarive. Just, you know, well, they didn't call. Well, I guess relatively speaking, they were expensive, but there was a point where they were. I remember looking in the Central Scientific Catalog in the 50s. They were like $1.25 for these fancy Geissler tubes, and I said, "Oh, the next thing we've got to invent is a time machine." You know, go back and stock up. And you can see just page after page of every which sort of tube imaginable. Yeah. Oh, Frederick the Great, maybe. Oh no, that's Bismarck. Yeah, we've got a Bismarck tube here. So they actually even he wasn't insulated from electrons anyway. Come again? The next tube for display. This is a piece of quartz crystal, I believe. The problem with a collection like this, you have to do a lot of research and try and find out what they are, and it isn't easy all the time to know. At least the Pressler catalog. This is not a Pressler tube, but this is another bombardment tube in which this piece of crystal up here will give us some curious color work. Go ahead. Lights. You can see the red, yeah, there, give that some. I believe so, but I'm not certain of it. Now that's the reversing the polarity there. You don't get as good an effect when because the electrons are being issued from down here as opposed to, better switch it the other way. That's better for it. Yeah, see, there's the effect there. Good. Now the next tube we want to display is the next round in the Anglo-German debate war on the nature of these discharges, which was Kreutz's next. This is a later tube, but it demonstrates the heating effect. Oh, good heavens! Well, oh, it does it. We have to look, right? It doesn't. Oh, it'll sound. Maybe we ought to hide that. It's a Geiger counter. Well, we can get the same effect out of here. Well, the next tube is definitely chock full of fun. Yeah, this is the Kreuzer. This is called the Kreuzer heating effect. The next thing that Kreuzer did here, and by the way, this tube is one of the tubes that was involved in the eventual discovery of X-rays. They're going to be okay? Yeah. Now, in the center of this tube, there is a piece of tin that is set into the glass, and then it's mounted up right in front of the cathode. So it's a marvelous combination to produce X-rays if necessary, and we will see if this gives us a little noise here. But this is the idea here, and you'll be able to see this here if you look closely. We can't run this too long, but you'll notice that there'll be a spot on that piece of tin that will actually begin to light up as a result of electron impact. This is trying to, the next step in Kreutz's experiment, showing the particulate nature of the discharge, corpuscles, electrons as they were called in the future. Lights down, please. What would that be? Go ahead. Well, I mean, I wasn't lying to you. Here, I think we can we'll probably dispense with that for obvious. Okay, we crank the voltage back on that when we go into this, and then we'll work up from there. Yeah, keep it way down. Go ahead. Now that's the volt. Okay, turn it the other way now, because we want to revert. Now, there is, you see the cathode beam being deflected off the side, and you can see down, see there's a beam coming up and going off. If you turn the power up on that a little bit, that will actually cause that. See it? Now turn it back. Don't outgas it. You see that effect in there? That was the heating effect, the Crookes heating effect, which then Crookes said, well, here we've obviously got something that's actually striking this target, and a particle that's causing this an impact, and you're causing this to heat up as a result of that.
Just us right up here, right?
It's just us. Okay.
When we start glowing.
Okay. Lights, please. Yeah. Actually, that's okay. But we got it. Let me just have it. Yeah, I'll do that. And here you can see the design of the tube. You can see the way that it's a piece of tin mounted on a glass. What's that? No, this is just a heating effect. And the rays, you can see that cathode beam bounce off there. That's just, but it's the idea was it's a focused cathode. You can see it's not a flat focused cathode, so you get for focusing of the rays, of the cathode rays on there. Yes, it's a focused cathode. It's parabolic. The thing about the parabolic cathode is if you change the vacuum higher or lower, you change the focus on that. And so it's very important, as we'll talk about a little bit later with X-ray tubes, that if you don't have the vacuum regulated properly in this tube, the focus of the cathode rays upon the target of the tube will not be correct, and then you will get X-rays that will give you weird shadows and different things that will not work properly. And so you want to keep the vacuum just right, because the focal length of the cathode beam will change as the vacuum changes in the tube.
Something like that cost. 100?
Okay. Yeah, let's do the single electrode and then the double electrode. Next, we have the tube that is called the Crookes magnetic effect tube. And this tube was the next step in talking about if these are just wave propagations from the electrode, then certainly a magnet would not necessarily deflect them. But if they were a particle that had a charge, then they would be repelled and attracted by respective poles of a magnet. So the next construction of a tube here was a tube in which you would have, there's a window down here, and this is a cathode. A beam is cast, as you'll see. We have the lights. I'm going to keep the discharge fairly, yeah, is that right? Oh, okay, get it back the other way. There we go. And if we get this magnet, we'll turn the tube for everybody. So if we get this magnet near here, you can see that there's, you know, and it depends on how we can get all kinds. You can see where the beam focuses in the German glass, the color here. No, they weren't ready for this. They had to wait for a gentleman by the name of Wilhelm Conrad Röntgen, who was one of their own, to prove that it obviously was. Oops, yes, yeah.
That was a good one.
Well, let's see. I have to think about exactly how to answer that truthfully. We'll talk about that a little bit later. The Crookes magnetic effect. And actually, you can actually get, let's see if we can do it today in here. Let's build up a little charge on my hand and sort of look at the top. It isn't only just by magnetism, but it is by, maybe, well, it's not working. I'm not, in the wintertime, we can build up a little charge. You can also deflect the beam that way as well. I'm sorry? Yeah, that's it. That's it. This was the late 1870s was the experiment. This tube is later than that because this was a very common type of tube. Did everyone get an opportunity to see that? Okay. There is a coating of barium platinocyanide, I believe, on the piece of tin that is mounted in the center, and there's a slit in the back end so that the rays are deflected elsewhere in the back, but the beam passes through and then strikes the fluorescent screen, producing this green or this blue effect. Now this is the single cathode tube. Now Crookes went a step further in his experiments, and he constructed what is called the double cathode magnetic effect tube. Well, actually, I wouldn't call it a magnetic effect tube. We would call it the point was this: if he had obviously a beam of particles with a charge, in this case a negative charge, if he were to take two beams and put them close together, then they should have some deflection by virtue of the fact that they have a similar charge. I thought that your remark to people in the seminar yesterday about working with Tesla coils and saying you should get a book on electrostatics, something like A.D. Moore's book or something, and spend some time studying the idea of charge and induction and all this, I think that was a marvelous piece of advice, because it really does explain so many things. But this is the idea that these beams should actually diverge. Now, the tube doesn't really work that well, so it doesn't really show this effect as well as it could, and I can't explain why. Maybe perhaps the vacuum isn't high enough, but oh, they made, yes, they did. They made, not only did they do that, but they also did this sort of the hairpin tube, so that only one side has any light in it, the other side is dark, because the discharge of the negative end and where the electrons impact at the other end at that vacuum would light up at the other side. Didn't. Let me just go on with this a minute here. What was happening here is we're wiring the anode, there's one pole, and the cathode we have the same wiring, so the beam of electrons, you should see these things diverge, but actually they don't do what they're supposed to do here, and we don't need to use the magnet, but we will. Okay, we have the lights. Are we in a double beam? There we are. Now there's a double beam. Now there is a little bit of let me see if I can go around here and see. Yeah, there is a little bit, actually. Yes, you can see them diverge out toward the end, so there is a little bit of proof of that. Again, with the by bringing the power up a little, we said increase the power, we should get. Yes. Right, and that would obviously be what should happen. Let's give it a swing over to one side here so you can see it. Yeah, oh sure. You can see the effect a bit on the, let's see if we turn up the juice there. And again, we can. Okay. Okay, we don't want to run this too long, outgas them a bit. Okay, we can bring the lights up. Questions? Observations? Well, if it gets real hot, you don't want to cook it up too much, because you can get a bit of outgassing, and you can yes, you can do that, or you can go the other way. You can just simply drive a lot of the oxygen molecules or atoms into the glass, the air molecules into the glass, and make the vacuum go too high. But if you heat it up too much, you can see the slit in the double cathode. Well, I think these parts here were actually made separately with a graded seal of some sort, and then, or if this is German glass, so you could seal copper into it, I think. And it's quite a process. It's beyond me, I'll tell you, to explain it, because watching glass blowers at work is amazing. I have some friends that are, and it's just, there are some people that have been. I know a few people who are trying to, but it is very difficult, because it is an art that is really lost, and to be able to do this is relatively simple. Well, no, I shouldn't say that's necessarily true, but it's not easy to do this. Obviously, I've heard Wendell talking about glass blowing. You have to get 2 or 3 truckloads of glass before you can even get into the first level. And then it's so many truckloads of glass after that before you really learn exactly how to do it. What is next? Ah, yes. Now we go to another. How is our time on the first tape? We're already in the second tape. Oh, I thought someone was going to tell us when to stop. Okay. Well, there you go, Jim. Let's just move right along. The next tube, in England, these are called railway tubes. In America, they were called paddle wheel tubes. This is another, this may have been the, what do you call it, the pièce de résistance from Kreuzer, or the bee's knees, as they say in other quarters, to prove. Now, we have to balance this tube. This is always, I think, probably a little money might do it well. Just sort of jack it up on. Okay, we have to get this balanced. But this tube is there are about a half a dozen mica vanes set. And when I bring this tube around to show you, the glass blowing work in this tube is really a tribute to glass blowers and their art. And this little wheel that's in the center here has, there's probably more than that, 6, 8 mica vanes that are set up. They have painted, is this the multicolored? They painted not 1 but 3 different phosphorescent, or rather fluorescent colors on here, so that you could definitely see not only the bombardment of each vane by the electrons coming down through the tube, but that when it got spinning really fast, it had, it even give you even a better effect in here. And then the rails in the tube, those are glass rails, aren't they? The rails in the tube are made of glass, not metal. They're made of glass, and they're perfectly well. Again, my words won't describe how beautiful this is. Again, this is running about 1/1,000,000th of an atmosphere, although they will work much higher than that. These are focused cathodes, but in building a tube like this, I once was talking to Ernie Pfaff, who is Technic Products in Chicago, talking about building these things and how difficult it is to get everything focused exactly right. Let's see what we got. Can we have the lights? Let's see what we have here. So the electrons impacting on that, they have, this is, I believe this effect is called transfer of momentum. And I'll just let this just run a little bit. I'm not going to say anything. You can just see this. If you notice, as he changes the polarity, you will see that the beam that comes up out of one side, and then the beam, you can actually see the cathode beam come across and strike that and spin and roll down and such like this. You can actually see that effect quite well. Yes, yes, you can, that too. No, they still weren't. They still were not convinced. This was not enough. We had to go. Well, I don't want to get into any jingoistic or some kind of slanderous approaches to this. You know, there was all sorts of things going on between European countries in those days. But like I say, when Hertz, Heinrich Hertz, and Philippe Lenard and Röntgen really got into this, then we had some changing of the guard and changing ideas. I think, you know, we have enough voltage here that even though the thing is on an angle, that there's enough voltage running through the tube that we can actually get this thing to work pretty well. And you can see. In this case, this tube has a little less vacuum in it, and that actually is the last vestiges of the positive column, which is one of the positive electrode-related. Actually, in a discharge tube, the negative phenomenon, the dark spaces and up to the Faraday dark space may be no more than 6 inches, 5 inches long, whereas the positive column, if you ever look at a neon sign, can be 60 feet long, because that speeding up and slowing down of the electrons and build-up of positive ions and ionization experiences of less light and excitation experiences of more light get graded up in there. So you're seeing that kind of effect in there. Yes, this is a German-made tube. No, the radiometer is contemporary with this. That's another crook. Oh yes. Oh yeah, you do that. Go ahead. Observe as we go. Observe the glass blowing work in this. We're talking about a masterpiece of workmanship here, I must say. Observe the veins. Observe, you know, and the one thing about this is you have to be sure to build this so that the veins do not reflect the cathode beam back at an angle that does not allow it to turn. There's all these little things in here you have to do. Plus the fact, like I say, the rails in that tube are rails that are made of glass. And so the workmanship of getting that balanced properly, I mean, that's a very well balanced thing, and it turns and does extremely well. I mean, you're talking about really something that is quite exceptional.
Jim, do you have any idea how many of these might have been manufactured?
I really don't. I don't know. I really don't know. Well, the problem nowadays is, and I think all of us sitting here listening to that Geiger counter, as well as observing the screen, that as a matter of fact, I've heard stories about people being, really hassled by the EPA. You know, yeah, I guess the EPA and HEW, I guess it does it, for even having tubes that in any way produce any kind of ionizing radiation. So they're not being manufactured anymore, which is sad, but I suppose some people might live a few minutes. Yeah, yes, they were. You could still buy a lot of these tubes from Central Scientific Company probably into the 60s. They weren't of this quality, but you could still do it. You know, the name is somewhat familiar. I'm just trying to think if I can remember. Huh. I'm not familiar with having seen any of the old tubes. Okay, where are we now? Okay, now I brought these tubes along here. These are now we are into the area of cathode rays and the actual effects. These are definitely radiation producers. This is a was actually probably designed to study very early on. I'm trying to remember the. Do you know that we don't know the dates on these tubes, do we? This probably was. Well, you see, in the 1890s, there was the work of first Hertz and Lenard were working on actually pushing the electron beams through a small aluminum window in the front of the of their tubes and study these cathode rays that would actually exit the tube. And there were a number of tubes built around that time to study some effects like that. Also, there were a tremendous number of tubes like this built just around the time of the discovery of X-rays because people just wanted to study them, try to figure out what was going on. It's like William Morton, the dentist in the United States, when he got the first communication about the discovery of X-rays and how you did it, definitely got to hand it to him for resourcefulness. He said, well, let's see now. He ran right out and got a Westinghouse or something high vacuum light bulb, went right down, got an induction coil. They were easier to find, maybe he had one, and he just simply got he tried it several different ways, but he just got some tin or whatever, and he glued it onto the side of the tube and used the filament pier or whatever in the light bulb as the cathode, and then he used this external piece of tin or whatever on the outside, and he hooked it up across his induction coil and took I guess maybe the first X-ray pictures or close to it in the United States with a light bulb. You know, because you could get that effect. All you need to do is to reduce the vacuum to the point where the electrons can accelerate in this tube without a lot of inelastic encounters, and in other words, they bump into things and get captured or recombine and so on. You need to have a long enough mean free path so that the electrons can actually strike the end of the tube here, and then you get you know, X-rays generated by this. I specifically brought this tube and another tube over here. There's actually three very interesting tubes. The third one is quite interesting because I know that Kenny mentioned you'd really like to take a look at a low power operation and just see exactly what it looks like. So I bid you welcome to take a close look here. We're not running that with a high voltage coil. Yeah. Oh, what are we doing here? The cameraman has. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, go ahead. Lights down. Turn, it's the other way. There it is. There's your just a touch. And that is, you know, your very, very earliest X-ray tube. You can actually see the cathode beam coming down, and you can see the impact on the glass wall of the tube quite clearly. And the effects are all quite, it's quite obvious. So this is, I'm not sure whether this is actually, that's the reverse polarity. I'm not actually sure that this was designed to be an X-ray tube, but the story about Goodspeed at the University of Pennsylvania. Actually, recently, Leland Anderson and I were speaking, and he asked me if we were just talking about two gentlemen, Goodspeed and Barker, at the University of Pennsylvania, who actually, Barker supposedly had done some research in some of Tesla's tubes, and we wondered if there was any possibility of finding out if there were anything left down there or any kind of stuff. Actually, I called up the archives and all that, and they said that if there were any, they were probably buried in the physics department. So one of these days it might be fun to get down and dig if they'd even let you do it. But Goodspeed, anyway, the other fellow that was down there in 1890, took the first X-ray picture ever taken, I guess, in the world, or at least claimed so in America. And he didn't, of course, know what he did, but he had different types of tubes like this around and had some photographic paper in a darkened envelope, and he had it around the table and was working with these tubes, and eventually developed it. And when the film was developed, it showed definite different. There was like a couple of spherical objects and so on there, and no one knew exactly what that was. After the discovery of X-rays had been made, though, it was obvious what had happened. And what do we have? Some of these tubes, the ends are broken off, and you sort of have to really be pretty good to get we'll get these repaired eventually. But this is a. Oh, I guess, let's see, well, the 199, the 01A, all those tubes show that. I guess in the early, let's see, did the spherical Audion use a getter? No. First used in 1920 by GE Labs. This tube has a little star-shaped object in here, which is actually the anode of the tube, supposedly to try to cast some kind of a star-shaped shadow in the front of the tube, but it doesn't do it. Go ahead. Lights, please. Yeah. It sort of does it, but reverse it. Yeah, there it is. And you can sort of see a little bit of shadow down there, but it isn't really very good. But that's another, just a very low power kind of. But this, I don't know. Just a touch. Just a touch, maybe. Yeah. Lights, please. I guess we're down to the, just the what have we got here? Well, this one here will show this. This is a very curious effect tube. I don't know whether this is carborundum in here or not, and you get some curious effects. I don't know what this is. We can run this, and maybe we can just show. Yeah, we can just show this. This is very curious effect. When the first time well, you can see this. I don't know what to say about this, except the fact that it might represent some kind of carbon button lamp phenomena. I don't know. Well, that's why there's very curious lighting on this. It's very strange, and perhaps someone can lend a bit of light to this. Any comments? Well, that's it. Kind of flames, sort of a. It's quite a bright glow coming from that. I don't know. Did you want to take another shot of that? Okay.
Any ideas?
Well, we have. This is one of those. I have no idea. No idea. We don't know. I'm sorry? Say that again, please. I don't know the date that began. I don't know. Well, now we are just about at the end of our display, and the last couple of tubes we're going to show here. This is the classic form of the gas X-ray tube, and this is early. Early, I would imagine this is probably late 1890s, 1900. Okay, and the reason why I call this early, I mean, it has a focus. You can see the ion impact burn on the cathode. There's a piece of platinum put into the that part of the anticathode there. There is no regulator on this tube, and what we mean by a regulator is, let me go over. This is an interesting story. I can show you this other one. This is a Rudolf Pressler tube, the other one here, and this has a unique kind. Well, this is early too, same kind of tube, but over here there is a little piece of something in here, and it. I can't remember. I used to know what it is. I can't remember. But you would take a spirit lamp and you would simply touch the spirit lamp to it. It would give off a little bit of hydrogen, and it would lower the vacuum. Now, why? Why would you want to do this? These tubes are, like I say, early because if you let's step back a little bit. You're in a doctor's office. You're going to take an X-ray. Now, the thing is, if you start out with an X-ray tube that is well, there's a terminology used in the early X-ray business, and if you read stories about X-ray pioneers and so on, they talk about cranky gas tubes and how hard it is to get one to take a picture. Now, if you're going to take a picture of your finger, then it might only X-rays haven't really changed that much. Film was slow. You had to sort of put your finger down on the film, and then you had to get the X-rays going, and you maybe it was going to take you a minute to take the proper exposure, or 2 minutes, or God love them, in some cases 2 hours, whatever, but you get a sunburn at the same time. And yeah, cook them until they're well done. And but what happened was, as the tube operates, you begin to use up, and there's a number of ways you can. You can drive the air molecules into the glass wall of the tube and just use up the gas in the tube. The vacuum, after being run for a while, goes up. And as the vacuum gets higher, the resistance of the tube becomes greater, and it takes a lot more voltage to push the discharge through the tube. So as the voltage increases, the penetrating power of the X-rays increase, resulting in the fact that you want to take an X-ray of a hand, and you start out to take it, and everything is fine. You look through the fluoroscope and see that it's just the right exposure. You can see the bone break and all this, and everything's fine. But after a minute or two, the intensity of the beam has become, the resistance of the tube has gone up to the point where now the X-rays, as a result of, instead of running on 35,000 volts, are running on 100,000 volts, completely penetrates the hand, and when you develop the piece of film, you get nothing, except maybe a very faint shadow of the hand, because the penetrating power is so great. So they had to do something so that they could regulate these tubes in one way or another, and this was developed more after 1900. They had self-regulating tubes, and what they did essentially was they would take an arm from, they had a regulator that was up here, might have had some asbestos in it or some mica between plates of asbestos. There were many different things that they used, and well, this is hard to do. They would run this arm down, and they would keep it at a certain distance from the negative end of the tube, and when the resistance between here got really high, you could actually jump a spark across this space here, which would go through the asbestos or whatever, release a little hydrogen into the tube, lower the vacuum. It was no longer able to jump across here, and the tube would go back to its operating level, and you could space this whatever you wanted to, because tubes were they said that tubes were you could talk about a 2-inch tube, a 4 or 5, 6-inch tube, but the resistance of the tube is how you judged where the hardness of the tube was. A hard tube is a tube with a high vacuum, hard to pass the discharge through. And it was really difficult in 1913 when Coolidge and Langmuir and Willis Whitney and those guys down in Schenectady came up with a ductile tungsten, and they were able to make the first hot cathode X-ray tube. You know, a big cheer went up all around the world, because then that really, they could go to you know, 10 to the minus 7, 10 to the minus 8 vacuums, and they didn't have to worry about this anymore, because they weren't depending upon gas in the tube to be able to carry the discharge. Anyway, I think at this point we are going to enlist the help of can, if you will. We've gone this far together. We might as well go the route. Now, at this time, I have to tell you that, and this is this is documented on everything here. So I'm issuing this warning and libeling everybody here, whatever. We are going to see definitely some X-rays being produced by this X-ray tube, and so any of you that have any trepidations about this, I would ask you to. This is not extremely dangerous, but there are X-rays here. You're going to see a gas X-ray tube in operation, which is something you may never see again. It is a very beautiful thing to see. Perhaps at a distance, it's more beautiful, but it is a phenomenon that is really a once-in-a-lifetime thing for some of us. I've seen it a few times. Some of others you have too, but. We're really going to go for it here. This is on video too, so there'll be a lot of evidence. Whatever. At any rate, observe that you will see one important thing about the X-ray tube. There'll be a hemisphere in the tube. One part will be green, and the back part will be different. And the front part is where only about less than. Let's see, I always forget these numbers. Well, maybe 1/2 of 1% of the electrons that's too many. Less than that, anyway, that strike that target will actually produce X-rays, produce characteristic X-rays, and so on. Most of the electrons are going to wind up being deflected and bouncing around, and you will see that they will strike the glass walls of the tube, forming a hemisphere. This is made of German glass. This is a Rudolf Pressler tube, by the way, one of the ones out of the catalog we were showing around. Which makes it kind of neat, and you will see the effect here of what a gas X-ray tube looks like. If you were in a dentist office in 1905, you could actually have observed this for 15-20 minutes at a time, or a doctor's office or something, and gotten yourself a suntan as well as a little education in natural philosophy. Well, how far away will the X-rays affect? Well, of course, we have the law of inverse squares in effect here as well, and we're not running with very much current or voltage. We're going to keep this down, but I would say that within a few, someone with a better knowledge of this like to make a comment. You heard it. At any rate, well, here we are, and this is sort of the climax of our show here to see this. Could we have the lights down, please? Okay, and we'll try to show this from side to side and give everybody a really good dose. No, that's right. Turn it the other way again. You can just see this. No, that's the reverse. You can see that's the other way. Turn it. Don't run it that way too often. Go ahead, kick it back. Yeah, go ahead. There it is. Turn up the voltage a little bit, you can see the penetration power increase. See? See, that's just turning up the gas on that. Okay. That particular screen has tungstate of calcium tungstate. They abandoned barium platino cyanide in the 1930s, 1920s, I guess. Good heavens, is that possible that we? Yeah.
I thought that thing was going to freeze.
Well, anyway, it should actually really sing a happy song for us. Well, actually, see what happens over there. I think that's something to see. Go ahead. Let's lights again, please. Beautiful. See the effects? Yeah. Okay. Well, this tube here was specifically made to generate X-rays with a focus cathode and everything, the proper vacuum, a regulator, and so on. The other tubes, when they were made, X-rays were not understood, so therefore we couldn't very well say that they produce X-rays, but they were not. That is the last of the tubes that we have to display. Well, that's just another X-ray tube. We don't. I think we've sort of. You know, I think we're thoroughly ionized. If any of you would like to see I think actually that we have been here now for 2 hours and 15 minutes, which is I really appreciate your patience. Well, I think we gave you a good show anyway, but I mean but I appreciate your patience. Everyone stayed with us even through the high energy photon section of the display. And we kind of have to. I think we have to move on to the next phase of our operation here. So I think we're going to have to close down. I don't know. I'm exhausted. I think tonight I may sleep the whole night. Something. Yes. One thing. People asked this earlier, and we will make mention of it. There will be available in my partner's antique bookstore and other thing. The name will change to Antique Books and Geisler Tubes. There will be a few items available here. None of the ones you see here. This is the major. Those are the better parts of the collection. You won't find the butterfly tube for sale or such. But there will be a few minor items available down at the bookstore, and so and that will be open. It will be something in the neighborhood of this type here will be available, and so if you stop down there, Jim will discuss that with you, and I think there might be I don't know 15 or 20 tubes of this type available. So what else? I think that's all. Thank you very, very much, and it's been really enjoyable doing this. I'm glad that we've got a chance to show these tubes.